now joined along John Gibson. You were at the Western game this past weekend. It was a loss for Bowling Green, and Coach Leffler in his Monday presser said that touchdown right before half that they allowed the Broncos just took the air out of their sails. What did you see at that point?
I think he's right. I thought it was very impressive to see him take accountability for actually being aggressive in going for the touchdown. Then all of a sudden you give the ball up and they take it to the house, and all of a sudden you're down, in a game where you could have, been within striking distance. But again, I think it just kind of goes back to this is where this team is. This Western Michigan team ran for 399 yards, very good offensive line, very good running backs, very similar to that Central Michigan team that we just played. And when you put those things together, it spells a loss for this team as they're currently constructed. There's not a lot you can do.
And you just mentioned Coach Leffler's accountability that he took. He blamed that play right before, that series right before the half on himself. So I want to know, and I've asked Coach and I asked players, just what growth have you seen in Scott Leffler as a head coach?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily growth that we're seeing. What I think we're seeing is his personality is coming out. Not a lot. It takes a big man to be the head guy and to say, that's on me. I made this mistake. He's basically said, I'm coaching for what I want to be, not for what I currently am. That takes a very big man to say that. And it's not a lot of coaches that will actually say that. Some of them will give you lip service, but when Scott Leffler says it, you actually believe it. And so I think that we are revealing, like I think I said this earlier in the year off camera to you, we don't know what Scott Leffler actually means. We don't know what his quirks are. There are some coaches that when you interview them, they're doom and gloom all the time, even though they literally have a full house of royal flush once they get onto the field. We don't know. We're learning this about Scott Leffler. We're seeing where he is, and this is again where we are with Scott Leffler right now. We're still learning him. We're a year in.
The player said he's a lot calmer, and Coach just says he just tries to take every positive ounce he can out of the negatives, and that's what gets him through the day.
Well, I think that you can only harp on the negative for so long with that group, with that age group, before they tune you out. You've got to be able to point out some of the positive. There were things positive that this team did. The problem is that this team is just not in a position where they can overcome their mistakes. They don't have the talent, they don't have the depth to overcome their mistakes, and that's the tough part right now.
But let's pull out some positives. Who are the positive young guys? The younger ones that have just shown bright lights here in this season? Well,
I think Jordan Anderson is the first one that steps out in my mind as a defensive back. He's come in, and Jerry McBride, we don't know if Jerry McBride's going to be back or not, but it's not, and that's nothing against Jerry McBride, but we don't really miss him. Jordan Anderson is doing an amazing job out there. You see Juwan Hudson at the corner, made some plays on Saturday, did some things that you really like to see a corner do. Those are positives. Those are positive things that you see, being done. Those two specifically. Bryson Denley, we kind of know what Bryson is, but let's be real here. Bryson is 175 pounds. Coach said today that he only expected Bryson to play 30, 35 plays a game. Bryson is 50, 60, 70 plays a game. He's on the field for most snaps. That's hard to do. I did that at 215 pounds and know what I felt like in the morning. So I can only imagine what that young man is like. He was he was supposed to be a utility guy. Get him in space, let him make a big play. He wasn't supposed to be off tackle running your 15 read play. That's not what Bryson was supposed to do. But when your running back room is a mass unit, you got to do what you got to do. And he got out. He's given everything that he got. So kudos to him. I think we're seeing Quentin Morris grow up. I think when you think about the offense right now, Quentin Morris is your #1 receiver, and he's that guy. He's second in the nation in catches per game at the tight end position. That's big for a guy that we thought was just an overweight wide receiver a year ago. And so now here's Quentin really stepping into that role and making big plays and growing. We were so on him earlier in the year because he was dropping balls. We don't have that problem now. He's focused in.
Absolutely. And you kind of alluded to it, that running back depth, and that just kind of plays into injuries. Now, what's the injury report after the last couple of weeks?
Prayer. At this point, we don't know if Davon Jones is going to be back. I've been hearing some rumblings that maybe Andrew Clare may play this week. I've been hearing these rumblings.
That would be his 4th game, right?
Yeah.
And he would still be eligible to redshirt.
To redshirt, yeah. I've been hearing that. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. You know, Trayon Raymore, young guy. He's a true freshman out there. And you know, at times he does things you like, and there's times I'm just like,
it's a freshman.
You know, he's a freshman. You know, he's a freshman. And he's not supposed to be playing. But yet this young man is out there giving it his all. And so the running back room right now, I mean, not just the running back room though.
Yeah.
I mean, you see DBs falling down. You see, you know, every time someone, you know, there were a few times where it was like, gosh, how many guys are going to be walked off the field? And that's just football. That's football. That's late October football. That's Mid-American Conference football. And I think this team right now is really reeling because the numbers are down. When you have attrition and you have multiple years of attrition like Bowling Green has had over the last couple of years, it's very tough to play your way around that stuff. There's just simply not enough guys. You know, when you have a defensive end go down and you have to put a true freshman in the game, that's tough. It's tough to win. It
is. And just to go along the positive theme here, Bowling Green was mentioned on College Gameday or on ESPN over the weekend from PJ Fleck over at Minnesota. He made the case for College Gameday to come to Minnesota. They play 8-0 Penn State. Minnesota is 8-0. And he said the last time because he was at Western before this, he said the last time College Gameday was at a MAC game, what was it?
It was Bowling Green versus Northern Illinois. That's the only time. And
what
that
year was that?
2003, and it was absolutely bananas atmosphere. I would be willing to bet that 40% of Northwestern Ohio and Southern Michigan was at that game. And it's when game day comes, it's an amazing thing. I mean, it's something that I'll never forget. I can still close my eyes and look out of our booth and see the game day screen with thousands of people in the behind the southern end zone. So I mean, PJ Fleck is, you know, he's got a point. He wants that experience for the University of Minnesota. I totally understand it because that's something that the players and the kids at the university forget. The university, the community at large is never going to forget that. There's still pictures that you walk through Bowling Green. There's still pictures from that game day set that you'll see throughout the athletic department. That was a big day in MAC football, but Bowling Green football specifically.
Before College Gameday can even step foot on Bowling Green's campus, Falcons have to beat an 0-8 Akron team. What opportunities do they have going up against a defeated team?
This Akron team is very similar to Bowling Green. It's in a position where they're trying to rebuild. At this point, their quarterback had been suspended for the last 2 games, so this is going to be his first game back. But we're very familiar with Cato Nelson and what he does. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's one of those guys where you want him to beat you throwing the ball. You don't want him to beat you running the football because he can. But this is a team that from 20 to 20, and Coach talked about this, from 20 to 20, they actually play very good football. For some reason, they don't do well inside the red zone. They don't put a lot of points on the board. And so that's most of the time a focus thing, but also the mark of a young team. And so this is a game that I think everybody in Bowling Green, in Bowling Green Nation, this is a game where like, hey, we can win this one. This is the game that we can win. This is a game that we should win. And I think we have to focus in and try to win this one. This needs to, but it's going to take another Toledo-like effort in order for us to get the W. Like at this point, for every game on our schedule, we're going to have to give a Herculean effort to win just simply because of who our personnel are.
I agree. With that said, score prediction. Bowling Green hosting Akron Saturday.
That's the toughest part of my week.
But you kind of alluded to it.
Well, I think that this is a game where Bowling Green can win. Like, this is a rivalry game. Like, let's not get it twisted. Bowling Green Kent, Bowling Green Akron, all of the games from the MAC East, these are rivalry games. You know, and these are not only that, but they're long-standing rivalry games. We're going back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s with most of these teams. Some of them are even going further back when you think of Miami, you know, before there was a MAC conference. So I would say this Akron game is going to be hotly contested. It is always highly contested. It is always very chippy. And you know, there's been some heartbreakers, and there's been some blowouts, there's been some heartbreakers. I think Bowling Green can pull this game out. I think that it's going to take a really concerted quality effort from Grant. He's going to have to, again, mimic the Toledo game. He's going to have to run the ball, create a couple of big plays. We've seen him do that. I think that he'll have to pass the ball and avoid the turnovers. And if he can do that and avoid the turnovers and maybe put one in the end zone, put a big one on, you know, Q Morris or one of the other receivers, you know, I think Bowling Green can win this game 24-17, 24-16, something like that, as long as they are stringing together drives and giving the defense a chance to rest. The defense has responded well when they had a chance.
All right, a close one, according to John Gibson, coming to the Dwight this Saturday.